you doing, YouTube? It's Will from Will Development. This is my 7th yearly update. And this year has been one of the better years in terms of, honestly, everything. In terms of comps, in terms of supporting the sport, in terms of notoriety in the sport, and in terms of even just general life. Yeah, I mean, where do we start, right? So I've decided instead of doing these in September like I had, that I would just wait till December just because calendar years are easier to track. And there's so much going on this September. God knows how much is going to be going on next September. So I figured I'd just play it easy and just say, let's just do it in December because we know we'll have some free time because during the holidays, generally everything slows down just a touch. So in terms of comps, I did a ton of comps this year. We're talking, I did Orlando's in February. I did Miami's in April. Did the Europa and the Record Breakers in July. Did the Scorcher in September. And I feel like I did another comp somewhere in there too. And I can't really remember what it was. January, February, March, April, May, June. Yeah, I guess there was nothing in May and June, and then July, and then in September. No, that was August. And then missed out on a couple of comps at the end of the year there, but kind of had no choice. So going back to Tampa Bay's Strongman Classic of 2020, this was one of the competitions that I had intended to do really well at. I knew I had a couple shit events, but I also had two really good events. One of them being the Hercules Hold, obviously a grip event, and the other one being a sled drag, which was also supposed to be a heavy event, which makes it a grip event. Did pretty good on the Hercules Hold. I believe I ended up somewhere around like 4th or 5th on that in terms of my weight class, which I was totally okay with. It's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, maybe I could have done a little bit better if I had grabbed this or that. It was actually my first time doing that particular event. So overall, I was pretty happy with how that went. The press went okay. Unfortunately, because of the order, that being, order matters a little bit, but honestly, I could say if I just done one more rep, I would have gotten a better placing, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, but then the guy would have gone after you, and you don't know if he had another one in him. So, neither here nor there. I didn't zero that event, so that felt good. And then we did the Hercules Hold. Brought me way up in the pack because of that event, or that event brought me way up, just because it was like the whole scoring changed because some of the guys that were good at pressing just completely shit the bed on that, and I just getting like 5th or even 4th on that shot me right up to I think I was in the top 10 at that point. And then I had the sled drag coming up, which I knew I had to do good at because the final event was a bag toss, which I suck at. I still do. I'm still working on it. Luckily, not a lot of comps have it right now, so it's not a huge focus, but I'll probably start throwing some more in, and I've been doing them here and there. Not as not as consistently as I probably should be, but it's one of those things I'm working on. So, but I knew I was going to shit the bed on the bag toss. I knew I could do the first one, but I knew I wouldn't get the other 3. So I said, cool, but the sled is bread and butter for me. It's one of my best events. And, I did it, and I don't even know when I had to go, but the sled was super light. It was like way lighter than I had trained for. And it's a different movement when it's light like that. And it's almost a totally different event when it's lighter. And it's almost better to just arm over arm the thing at that point because it's so light. And you know what? When I finished that event, I talked about it in the wrap-up, I think. I saw the time and I saw it was 13 seconds. And I just knew. I knew everything was done. I knew there was no recovering from it. There nothing I could do. at this point was going to get me in even the top 10. Because that was supposed to be one of my better events. And it just kicked me in the balls because I knew I'd gotten last place, period. I knew it. The next closest guy was like 10 seconds or something like that. And it just broke me because it was supposed to be one of my good events, and I just shit the bed on it, and I was like, I know the bags are washed, so that was in October or November-ish of last year. And then leading into February for Orlando's earlier this year, 2021. And I had intentions to try to get to the podium. That was my plan. And there was only like 4 guys. It was my last 200-pound comp when I competed as a 198er. And I had planned to get to the podium. That the time I signed up, there was only like 3 guys or 4 guys or something like that. And I was like, hell yeah, I can do this. Or I think there's 3 of us. So I was like, cool, I want to get second then. Because one of them, which was there, was like, I'm not beating this dude. And, I went, and neither here nor there, I think I talked about it in the thing, but it was like, usually when you sign up first, you get sort of a champion's advantage in the first event. They ended up keeping the same exact order for every event, which means I had to go first on every single event, which puts you at a significant disadvantage because some events you're better at, some events you're not as good at, and it was like, well, hey, if I saw him do 4, I'll just do 5 because I can do 5. I know I need to do 5 to beat it. But it's like when the moment you're doing it, it's like, do I waste the energy to go for 4, or is everybody going to get 3 on this? So it was tough, but I did end up getting second from last place at that show, which was fine by me because these 2 ringers just showed up from up north Florida, and one of them is one of the best 200-pounders in the country, and the other one's his training partner. So I was like, cool, no shame here. In the process of doing that show, I was trying to lose some weight because I was tired of cutting. And joke's on me, right? Because I'm now, at that point, I was 2 weeks out from Miami's, and I couldn't gain weight. I just couldn't put any weight on. I felt weak all the time. I felt shitty. Miami's is coming up, and I'm training 2 weeks out with one of my training partners, and we were going over the 175 weights because what he was doing. And I was failing the 175's farmers and yoke. And I knew that was bad. If I couldn't do farmers, I knew I was done. Contacted the promoter, ended up going down to 175, ended up just having to cut about 10 pounds, which wasn't bad. Went there, had a great time. I think I zeroed 3 events. But to be fair, one of those events, only one person was able to finish it. And the rest of us zeroed it. So I felt okay there. I was like, cool. So it was just as hard for me as the rest of these guys. That's always a little vindicating when that happens. So we went from that, and then we went to the Europa right from there, and the Record Breakers event, which is where I broke the USS Nationals Farmers Hold record in the 181 class by 17 seconds, setting a new record of 1:25. And I trained really hard for this event. I broke it unofficially in the gym right when I got to 1:10, and I knew I had plenty more in the tank, just dropped it, because the old record was like 1:07 or something like that. And I beat that in the gym about a week out, so I knew I could do it, and got there day of, and it was one of the prouder moments, because it wasn't that I just beat it by a couple seconds. I beat it by 17 seconds. There is no question that I demolished that record. And I'm hoping it lasts for a little bit, but I mean, records are meant to be broken, so somebody's actually going to go attempt it, a fellow competitor that I know. He's attempting it in April. And I actually gave him all the tips and tricks that I had to break it, and I said, go get it, man. Go get it. I said, but be warned that if you don't break it by more than 2 seconds, I don't give a shit. They can count it all they want. I don't count it. 2 seconds is a rounding error. You better break it by at least 3. 3, you did it. Congratulations. I'm that guy. Which is why I beat the old one by so much. And then the Europa itself was a very tough show. It was a 220 and under, And if you may recall, I had weighed in at 181 the day before. So I was walking in there at like 190 and beat up from doing a yoke and the farmer's hold. So I was actually pretty happy with my performance there. There was even a misload on the farmer's handles. They were supposed to be 250 and they were 275. And 5 guys actually zeroed the event. And I managed to, of the people who completed it, I was the slowest, but it took me 20 seconds to do it. Which sucked. 275 a hand for 20 seconds. My God, that was awful. Yeah, so then right after that, got to do the Scorcher, which was a fun show because it was so intimate. There was only one other person, one of my training partners in the 175s, and that was one of my favorite shows of this year, just because there was a bit of vindication there. I had failed in training to extend at all a 275 stone, and I'd made the stones for this show. Not all of them, just some of them. And the 275 was one of the stones I had made, and I was actually able to load it to a just above hip height platform, which was super, super vindicating for me, and it felt great. You'll see the footage of it. You can find that where you can just tell how happy I am to have gotten that and done a stone run and able to complete it finally, because I've failed stones in a lot of comps. And then I got married in September. And pretty much right after that show. And I was going to do Tampa Bay's this year, which was October. But our reception for up north was the same weekend. So I couldn't miss that, needless to say. So I ended up missing the show, but I was a sponsor, and I created some really nice stones for the show. Some very unique stones. I dubbed them natural Atlas stones because they have a natural stone look to them. And I think they look cool. Everybody at the show seemed to like them a lot. So in this same time, I had been contracted to do the stonework for the official Strongman Games, which, if you're unfamiliar, that's essentially World's Strongest Man for everybody who isn't, in that league with Martins Licis, Brian Shaw, Mateusz Kielskowski, guys like that. What's the guy? The Stoltman brothers, you know what I mean? Those guys generally don't compete at OSG, but the Masters guys do. The 175 men, the under 64 kilo women, that kind of thing. They compete there, and they get dubbed World's Strongest, whatever weight class they're in, including the Masters. And they do have an open heavyweight man division as well, which I believe both the Masters and the open heavyweights get you an invite to Worlds. I believe so. I could be wrong there, but I got contracted to do the stones for that show, and it was 24 stones, 12 matching pairs, and it was one of the most incredible experiences. Getting to hang out with Steve Slater, who most people don't even know who he is, but he is the man for Atlas stones. And he loved it. He loved the work. He loved the stones. I have his number now, which is so weird. Like, I can just text Steve Slater. It fucking blows my mind, to be honest. But it's awesome. And I had told the wife I wouldn't do any more competitions this year. I'd finally take an off season, and I would just take some time, even put on a little weight, and then wouldn't compete till the next year, meaning 2022. So that meant I had to skip out on Florida's. But there was a charity event that happened in December, a couple weeks back, maybe about 3 weeks ago now. And it's an event that Donnie Kiernan out in Tampa puts on every year. Lift Miss, he calls it. And last year I didn't participate because they had a Viking press for reps. And I was like, cool, I suck at pressing. I don't want to do it. I'll just show up, bring toys, and have a good time. But this year they did a sleigh drag with the Viking press. Kind of hurtful, but they asked me to test out the Viking press for the men. I know why. They know because I'm the worst presser, so it's like, if Will can do it, nobody's going to zero, because that's a charity event, so they don't want anybody to zero it. I think I got 10 reps. I think the guy who beat me got 11. So I got last place in that first event. But this is where everybody screwed up. Because I got last on that one, I got to go first on the sleigh drag. And I talked about it earlier, but with sled drags, when it's heavier, it turns into a grip competition. Because if you can't hold onto the rope, you can't move the sled. It's that simple. So they were sort of testing the weight, and they're like, oh, is that good? And I was like, throw some more weight in. Just keep throwing weight in. Just keep going. No idea what it ended up weighing for the lightweights. But I ended up finishing it with like 20.9 seconds or something like that. And the next closest guy was like 21.6 or something. So I won the lightweights for the sled drag, and I went to the promoter, Donnie, and I said, hey, you think I could give the heavyweight weight a shot? Which, based on our rough math, it was at least 795 pounds. At least. Bare minimum. It was probably more, but that's what we were calling it, just to say. And I ended up finishing that sled pull with a time of 29 seconds. So sub 30 second, I ended up, after talking to a few people, watching a few videos, I think I got third in the heavyweights on that event too. And that was cool because that actually gave me, because I got first on that event, a last place and a first place got me to third place overall because there was only 4 of us in the lightweights. It was cool to finally podium anything, and sure, it was just a charity event, but it felt good, and it was also going all the way back, right? That same arena, that same direction on a sled pull burned me so much, and I got completely vindicated by smashing that event in the lightweights with my peers, and then beating a ton of heavyweights. I mean, there was 4 or 5 of them who couldn't even move the sled, and of the like 4 or 5 that finished it, I beat like 2 or 3 of them. So it's just like, man, what a great way to finish the year in terms of competitions. Really gave me a good outlook, and helps keep everything in perspective. You know, I got that second opportunity to do a sled pull and to show that I am one of the best in the state at it, period. So that felt great. So yeah, notable things this year. I'm consistently pressing in the 200s, plural, not just 200, but in the 200s. Consistently deadlifting over 450. Which is great. The deadlift definitely needs to come up along with the press. Consistently squatting in the 3s without pain, which is incredible. I've actually switched to a more high bar style squat with even more front squats thrown in, finally, right? And what's the other main thing I do, right? Press, squat, deadlift. Yeah, that's the big 3, right? Everything's going the right direction. Comps next year, I have a comp lined up January, February, March, and April. I'm actually signed up for March, February, and January. The April one actually drops tonight, of all things, in terms of events. I don't know if signups drop tonight, but there's some stuff going on with Strongman Corporation, and I don't know if I'm going to re-up my membership this year, which means I would miss out on a few comps that I'd really like to do, especially Miami's and the Scorcher, and I wanted to do Florida's next year also. So I would miss out on those, but it's one of those things where I don't know if I'm going to do it or not. So I'm keeping it very open and up in the air, and I won't make any decisions or say anything negative. I'm in a very much wait and see kind of attitude when it comes to Strongman Corporation right now. In terms of USS shows, so far I've got nothing against them. In fact, they're teaming up with Anthony Furman and his Clash on the Coast series. And that's a good pairing. That's exciting stuff too. So, goals for next year, over a 500 deadlift, consistently in the 480 range with deadlift, consistently in the 230s in terms of pressing, and consistently top 5 in competitions. I would like to podium a show next year. We'll see how that goes. Man, because every time I get stronger, so does the competition. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm actually running out of time on the camera here, so. So yeah, it was a great year. It's a great year for Will Development. And, I don't talk too much personally about my work and things like that, but I actually left my job this year, right around Thanksgiving. And I am now doing Will Development full-time, as well as training full-time, training people at the gym full-time. Which is super exciting and super cool and super nerve-wracking too. But, honestly, everything going well. And, I don't talk about this very much here, but the only way I can put it is when I left the job, it truly felt like it was meant to be. Because right when I left, I got enough orders to make it through the next quarter of next year, making the same money I was making. So, and that's just from stonework. And that's just awesome. And I will hopefully continue to do so through the next year. I've got a really big job lined up next year as well. Super exciting one. But I'll talk about that on a weekly update coming up. So look forward to the next yearly update. Thank you for watching. And have a safe and happy New Year's. And if you don't, what's your excuse?